Yes, people, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. This is episode number 5, I think, of The Devil's Advocate. We're back with the two most knowledgeable men in the Tottenham community, in my opinion, at least, on the youth system, the youth setup. They were the advocates for the class of 92 that Tottenham are emerging, class of 25, perhaps. We'll have to talk about it. But listen, when we've got such exciting, interesting news developing through the youth system, oh, he's already gone through the acquisition of such young, talented players. You have to start to ask some questions about when are we going to see it and what does it really look like? And we did have two. We're back to one guest alongside me. Welcome, everybody, into the show. Please smash the like button for me on the video like you always do. Hit the subscribe button on the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell and then drop a comment in the comments section. First and foremost, Dave, how are you, my man?
Yeah, I'm all good, Shawnee. I'm all good. Thanks very much for having me. One of my favourite shows of the week. So, I can't wait to start talking about the Youth Academy. You know how much interest I have in it. So, thanks for having me, my man. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy these shows with you and Johnny.
Mate, love to have them. I love to have you, and I enjoy them probably more so, I think. Johnny, how are you, my man? Good to see you.
I'm all right. I just thought I'd just gone deaf there. Everything went silent, and I was like talking. And I thought, maybe, hang on, just check my ears. No, I went out and came back. All good. I never thought I would long for the day that there was no internationals, because for the last 4 years, I was praying for an international break to give me a break from the abuse I would get. Speaking to people on Sunday or Monday morning, when you go to work, speaking to your mates. So no, just eager and itching for the weekend to come back and for Ange Ball to resume.
100%. Listen, we are going to talk about that brief.
One of my favourite shows, obviously.
I hope it is one of your favourites. In fact, it's one of our favourite shows. Everybody here loves you two. Guys, please obviously make your love known in the comments for Johnny and Dave. Let me say to a few people just quickly that are here now, and then we're going to get straight on with it. Pete Shaw's in the house saying the best 3 YouTubers, always a good watch. I appreciate that, Pete. Appreciate that much. Very much. Scripting Wands, cool name, man. He says, I like that. It's a good name. It isn't a good day without a cheeky Spurs Talk Show video. Appreciate that, my man. That's me saying smash the likes. You know what you got to do. Liam Harty saying, morning, Sean. I sent you an Insta message. Oh, did you? Okay, mate. I will look into that. I haven't seen it. I very rarely look at Instagram, but I will check it out. Drew Zinner's in the house. What's happening, Drew? Good to see you, mate. Big up, Sean. Or big up, gents. Listening at work. Can't wait for the show. Smash the likes for the best front three since Neymar, Messi, and Suarez. I don't think so. Not with
Do we
me on
score as many?
Yeah. Kevin Chunks, how are you, fella? He's always talking to Liam. He's talking back. Lisa from Mexico. What's happening, Lisa? Good to see you. I hope you're happy and healthy doing the things you love over there on the beach. How's the pooch? Remco says, Sean, do you think Spurs will go into an era of buying more wonder kids? First Phillips, then Valiz, and now Vescovic. This will be our new policy. Well, that's one of the questions we're going to go to and ask the boys about, because it does feel like there is a little bit of a kind of silent revolution happening behind the scenes at Tottenham. And it's gone unnoticed, I think, by a lot of Tottenham fans that maybe have had their eyes on the
Dave and I.
pitch. What's that?
I said, not Dave or I.
No, not you two. Definitely not. Definitely not. Shout out to the Don Paratici lovers out there. Blaine Dev, one of the best members of the community. Love you, Blaine. Good to see you. Thanks. I think this is late. Renewal was a while ago. Big up, Sean and panel, and hope the chat are all well. Good to see you, mate. I really appreciate your support of the show and obviously your generosity in staying as a member. Stratus is here. G'day, Anja Files. G'day, mate. Good to see you. Who else we got? Lise. We got On Your Bike. Scott's in the house as well. What's happening? When was you gifted a membership? I don't know. I haven't seen it if you were, but congratulations for the gift. And thank you very much, whoever did it. Very generous of you. Really appreciate all your support. I'll look into to find out who that was. Coy's from Geordie Land. Future's bright. The future is Tottenham. What's we're going to talk about? And Kevin Chunk's in the house. I'm really looking forward to seeing Midge van der Ven again. Well, look, before we get into...
You got it wrong. The future's bright. The future's lily white.
Lily white, exactly. Yeah, you got to make it rhyme. Listen, a little bit of, I don't know if this is real relevant news or if it's wrong, but I've been seeing people on Twitter saying that Heung-min's son got injured playing for Korea and he's got a knee knock. He's come out with a knee brace. I don't know if that's true, if you guys have heard it, but if it is, first question out of the traps is, what do we do against Sheffield United? Do you put Richarlison in, or do you bleed one of these youngsters in Brennan Johnson immediately, throw him in at the deep end, put him in the 9 and see what he can do? I'll start with you on this one, Dave. Go on, mate.
Look, I don't know how true it is, to be honest with you. If it is true, it's it's concerning. But what I would say is, remember, Maddison left Tottenham ground on crutches, and it was more of a precaution than anything. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But look, Sonny will be a huge loss. You know, he was absolutely instrumental for that. You know, the 3 points against Burnley. I think if you had Richarlison running in behind like Sonny, like I've said before, I don't think that first touch is there, and I don't think he would have got the goals that Sonny got. But look, if he is out, I think against Sheffield United, I think you do go with Richarlison up front, if you want me to be brutally honest. I think playing Brennan Johnson through the middle, look, I think he's a good talent, one I think we need to develop, but he's still raw, and his finishing isn't the greatest either. I think that's an area he needs to work on. I remember at Arsenal, he was clean through in the opening few minutes, and he blazed it over the bar. So, you know, I would, even though Richarlison is out of form, I would go with Big Rich. You know, everything can change in football in a week, just like that. You know, a week in football is a very, very long time, and it'd be to the benefit of us if we could get him to make a couple of goals against Sheffield, heading into the North London derby, especially if Son is injured. Because what Richie will give you is a lot of work out of possession, even though he's not scoring. You know, he chases down everything, he harasses people, this, that, and the other. However, on the flip side, in the North London derby, you can't afford to have the heavy touches and give the ball away as frequently as Richarlison does. So, look, it's a big call by Ange. Personally, I would stick Kulu down the middle.
Kulu in the 9?
Yep. I think when you look at Kulu, I think he's got so much similar traits to Harry Kane. Shape, size, he can hold up the ball, he can lay it off, he can get on the ball, turn and run, and he's got a good left foot. So, you know, for me, if you want someone to hold up the ball, because that's the difference between Son and Richarlison, right, up front. When Richarlison's up there, he gives away the ball and it keeps coming back. With Sonny up there, it sticks, and that's why we went and scored 5 against Burnley. So, you know, for me,
Decky doesn't give away the ball either, does he? Decky can hold the ball, and he's very strong. So,
and like you've highlighted, Sean, he gives you a lot out of possession, right? A lot of turnovers, a lot of pressing and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe if Ange moved him down the middle and kept the pace out wide.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all, to be honest. I think Decky could be a very versatile player, not just in the 9, but I think he could also do a good job in the middle of the park if there was injuries to someone like Maddison or someone like Pape Sarr. I even think he could do that job, to be honest. Johnny, I'll come to you, mate. Listen, people are saying it's an old picture, so it might not be true.
Right, so here's the rub anyway. So Brennan Johnson can't finish his dinner, right? I mean, my God, right? Did you see him for Wales the other night, how many shots he had?
Yeah, he was terrible against Wales.
I mean, it was honestly, you know, like I could have got more on target. I mean, you know, he's not a 9, guys. He's not a 9. I'm not saying he won't gravitate towards a 9, but he's a winger. And even in the wing position, he needs to improve. You know, why was Steve Cooper not playing him the last few games of the season? Explain that to me. It wasn't because he was being sold. It wasn't because he fell out of favour. It's because he didn't think he was right up to the rigours of what was going on at the time.
Right? So you were really against the signing of Johnson then?
I don't think that Brendan Johnson is a terrible player. I just fail to understand why we needed to spend nearly £50 million on that type of player at this time. I think, you know, would I prefer to have seen an out-and-out striker like Gift Orban? Yes. Or another quality centre-back, or even a Tosin and bank the money? Yes. I think we could have got by till January with Kulu and Porro, you know, in that right wing-back with Emerson tucking in behind. I think we could have easily got away with that.
Does that not maybe indicate, though, Johnny, that maybe Porro then is his number 1 choice at right back, and that's why they went out and got Brennan Johnson? Because I think we also have to understand, right, and I think you've highlighted this as well, Johnny. I remember hearing you saying it, and I said it before deadline day, that we will have to buy in a homegrown player. So when Andrew's in the homegrown market, right, that reduces 90% of your market. So there's only sort of very few players you can get that are homegrown based that you can get for a reasonable price without spending top dollar that isn't already, say, in the England national team or something like that. That's going to cost you 70, 80, 90 million. So I think, you know, although many people sort of don't agree with the signing, which I understand, I think we have to understand that we have to go for homegrown. You look at our homegrown quota, there's a lot of deadwood we speak about getting rid of. A lot of that is in the homegrown quota as well. And in order to start getting a hold on that next season and stuff like that, and this we'll talk about this. I think this is where a lot of the under 21s might come true next year. Or
it's disproportionate. the problem is, Dave, right? It's disproportionate. 30 million, all right, 40 million if you take away Winks, but it was all part of the deal. 30 million plus, Winks is 30 million in my book. But it's disproportionate to pay nearly 50 million for the two. I don't see any comparison. Maddison is a top player, guaranteed to come in and give you everything you've been missing. 50 million nearly for a work in progress. As we all know, he can't finish. His first touch isn't always great. What he has is unbelievable pace. He's the fastest in the Premier League. But going back to if Sonny's injured, Sonny's injured, right now, Richie is with Brazil. He will play Thursday morning at 3 a.m. in altitude in Peru. Okay? He will not be coming back and playing up front, even if he was firing goals, right?
Yeah. That's a good point.
You're not coming back. I'm sorry, you're not coming back from altitude in Peru. It's hard enough to go and play in Peru, full stop. Whoever you are, they use the altitude against the other teams. So I think it'd be very difficult. As for Richie, look, I'm not going to sit here and defend him, but I would say, look at the touch of Richie in the 2 goals he scored in the World Cup, especially the second goal, not the scissor kick goal, the other one where he balanced the ball like a seal, flicked the ball through. It was an equal, almost on par goal to the one he scored. He has great touch. The problem he has right now is when your confidence goes, like he's having to think about the most basic football things that a kid shouldn't even be thinking about when he plays football. That's what happens. I think his mind is completely gone. He's overthinking everything. He's snatching at every ball. And as you rightly say, Dave, his touch, his ball's bouncing all over the place. He even trod on the ball the other game. He's completely.
I don't know how do you fight the way back into confidence? You have to play yourself back into confidence, don't you?
No, you have to someone needs to get inside someone will need to get inside his head, and I think someone will be doing that. Listen, this fan base praying that he fails. The mass. He's crap. Get him out as quickly as possible. Right, guys. Whoever
I don't pray
you want to get him round. You want to get him round. If you don't hate, look, if this fan base, if this team was based on everyone who they didn't like, there'd only be like 6-7 players left in the bloody squad because everyone hates everyone. But anyway, so I would say for me, as far as false 9, Solomon's played at false 9 for Shakhtar. He played at false 9 when they played against Real Madrid and turned them over at the Bernabeu, which was one of the shocks.
I don't think you can play Solomon in the 9.
No, I'm just saying he has played that role before on more than one occasion, on a few occasions. I'm just saying he has played the role. Obviously he's not a traditional win the ball up in the air, but Ange doesn't want the ball in the air. Ange wants the ball on the ground. So his height won't be shouldn't be an issue. Kulu I see Kulu as an 8. I've said this before. I don't see him out playing on that out wide. I just don't think he has the tech for that. But I think Son will probably be fit. I hope so anyway. But I just don't see. You know what would be great? The only way for Richie to turn around the atmosphere right now, the toxic atmosphere towards him, which I don't understand when we're actually winning. Could understand if we were losing games. Would be to score a goal against Arsenal, like a winning goal against Arsenal. Let's hope that Sonny isn't injured.
Yeah.
Right. We want him fit. But, if he has got to be thrown in, let's hope Richie does do the business. But hopefully Son's fit.
Hope so. I really do as well. Look, for me personally, just on the Richie thing, I'm certainly not hoping that he fails. I'm desperate to be mudded for all of eternity because I was against the signing before it happened. I've never fancied him as a player. Didn't like him at Watford. Didn't understand the transfer fee to Everton. Didn't think he was that great at Everton at all. And then he came here. But the second he came here, like, I want him to do well, and I'm desperate to be muddied on it. You know,
You're on the minority, though, Sean. You are actually you are the minority, and it's not just Richarlison. You know, we need a scapegoat today in football. You know, there has to be a scapegoat. Win, lose, or draw. You know, when we won 5-2, and I was at the Burnley game. I went to Burnley, and all I'm hearing is on the way back, Richarlison shit, he came on, he did nothing. Well, hang on a minute. Yeah, he didn't do anything, but half the attack went off that supported him. But why are you talking about that? Why are we
focus on the positives? I agree.
Yeah. I think when it comes to Richie, I think because of some of the shit we've had to watch on the football pitch, you know, over the last 3 to 4 years, where you're watching players consistently fail to do the basics of football, the levels of intolerance for fans for that now, it ain't there. So we're at a stage now where, you know, everyone wants a player to come in and just show that he can even just do the basics. And that's what Richie is failing to do at the minute. Look, Spurs took a punt on him because he had a decent strike rate for a team like Everton, who were sort of down the bottom of the league. I think he averaged, what was it, one goal in 4 games. And I think Tottenham looked at his age and said, okay, you know, I think he could be ready for the next step. Let's see if we can get that strike rate down to 1 in 2.
He's more than goals, though. I hear what you're saying, Dave, but Richie's game is not just about goals, right?
No,
creating space. You know, he's never going to be that 30 goal. I hear what you're saying, but he's never, ever going to be 20, 25 goals a season player, ever. You know, I don't see that as him.
But you know what then, Johnny? I don't think Spurs fans will tolerate him that long then, if you want me to be brutally honest, because look, as Spurs fans, even my era, right, growing up, we always had strikers that were going to bag you goals, always. And that's always been what someone like me is growing up used to, is guys that will bag you 15 to 20 goals a season. Yeah. And I do think Richarlison does need to get to that level, because Ange will need a striker that's going to bag him 20 goals a season, because that will take Tottenham from challenging for European places to going further up the league. That's the big difference, in my opinion, with Ange Postecoglou. And I do think Richarlison needs to get himself to that level. But
he does.
Look, even if he does go and see somebody and he does get all this mentality sorted out, is that quality there for him to be able to make a success of it? Because if it's not, it's only going to compound to his mental state. You know, it's going to keep compounding on it if that quality's not there, and we keep throwing out there, asking him to do something that he just can't do.
I think one other player that we haven't mentioned. In fact, let me press pause on the conversation 1 second. Let me get this super chat from Sava from Football Heritage TV. Big up, mate. Much love. Big up, Sean, on the channel. Appreciate you, Sava, mate. Thank you very much.
Sava I know Sava loves Richie. He done a lovely little piece.
I think Sava has as much distaste for Richie as I do, to be honest.
No, I mean, look at Big Vic. The hate for Big Vic before those 2 games. Against, the first game against West Ham, we should have signed Raya. This club wouldn't even pay 40 million for him. And we've signed this joker, right? He was at fault for all 3 goals. I'm listening to all this stuff. Guys, he wasn't even on the pitch in the second half, right? You know, come on. You know, the fan base needs to just hope we win and get behind the team.
Let me hang on. What have I just done there? Just cancelled something out of the stream. I hope you're still there. Here we go. I'm just trying to keep up with all of the timestamps afterwards. Vicario, a little word for him. Obviously we're here to talk about the youth system, right? So let's use the tangent here. Obviously, we're going to talk more in depth about what's going on with the youth and the under 21s in a second. But just as the tangent or the transition rather from the first team and Richarlison's potential lack of confidence, plus the fact that he'll be shattered, and so if Sonny's injured, what do you do? Dave's making the argument for Kulusevski. Is there any argument at all? I expect you both to say no, but is there any argument at all to bleed one of our newest crops of this new generation of talent in Alejo Beliz? Is he anywhere near the first team?
Ange hasn't even watched him play, number one. Number two, he's told him he won't be involved till January. Now, what I find that mind-blowing, because you know, why have you sanctioned him to come? Because obviously he didn't find him, didn't scout him. He was scouted by Gabby and the rest of them. But how can you make that appraisal? You know, he's not everyone seems to think he's the same as Brian Gill, but he's not. He's 6'2". He's not 5'7", 5'8". He's a lump, right? He's very good in the air. I'm trying to work out why you would even make that that statement to him.
To put a timeline on his arrival basically tells him whatever happens, he's not going to be needed or necessary before a certain point in time. You can't predict what's going to happen, right? If there were genuine long-term injuries that all occurred at the same time, like they did last year for what it's worth, we had 6 forwards last year. And around this time of the season, last season, at points, we had 3 on the pitch and none on the bench because they were all injured. So you cannot predict the future. To sit there and say he's definitely not going to be involved until January, to me, is an unnecessary bottleneck.
Well, I don't understand it, Sean, but I do. I can tell you, as of yet, Ant hasn't watched him play. So
well, he's not even training with the first team. You think? No?
He's they're building him up. He's been in the gym. In fact, I think you saw a couple of pictures of him in the gym with Brian Gill. But listen, he's very good in the air. Maybe his progression is slow, but I'm like you. He could easily be.
Very good, Kevin.
I just think it's a bit of a strange one because you don't know what a player is going to do until you see him. Managers can be surprised by players and their attitude, but he hasn't watched him actually play in a game, is what I'm saying. Obviously, he's watched him training.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
watched him in an actual game yet. Whether or not he'll play in the under-21s to get minutes, but that's very crowded, Dave. Right? What with Lancashire, Sosop Bell, Donnelly.
Santiago Sanchez. In fact, let's pivot.
Donnelly's already being played out of position already, more or less out wide and stuff like that. So, be interested to see where Release fits in. Sorry, Shawnee.
No, I was going to say, anyway. I'll come to you right now on this one. I think we can all agree. There's no point in going around the traps on the Veliz thing. He's probably not ready or not going to be included. But let's now pivot to the under 21s. Right? I'll get the screen up in a second that shows. But in a nutshell, played for, won for, 15 goals scored, 1 goal conceded. We've smashed Manchester City, who
5 wins.
Was it 5 out of 5? Is it? Sorry, I must be missing one. Yeah, 5 out of 5. 15 goals scored, 1 conceded. Beat Man City 5-0 away from home. Beat Newcastle 3-1 at home. Beaten Blackburn, Derby. I think Port Vale or someone in the league in the FA Trophy or whatever as well. Like it's amazing. Like we're starting well. Dave, give me your rundown on what's happening in the under 21s because I profess I'm not over it like you guys are. So I'll let you take it away.
Well, look, there's been a massive change, right? We've we're bringing up players from last year's under-18 sort of cup victory. We were able to keep some of the players from last year, like Noel John and stuff like that. But also, we've had the added benefit of being able to attract other players from other academies and put them into our under-21 side. And look, that's all because there's been a massive change by Paratici. I think it was old head of the academy, Dean Rastrick. He had them all basically, all more or less on a similar wages, and it sort of like was designed to.
There's more McDermott, Dave. McDermott was the one who had them restricted on wages. But you're right.
But he's gone. He's gone for a while though, isn't he? And Dean Rastrick sort of just continued it on. He never really sort of changed it or stamped his authority on it. Whereas sort of Paratici has said he's sort of behind the scenes and got all this in place. He's like, look, if you want to keep a hold of all these guys, you're going to have to start offering them what maybe other clubs can offer.
Correct.
And that's why we were able to ward off, who's the guy that was so close to Borussia Dortmund? Mikey Moore. That's why we were able to keep the likes of him, because we were able to break the payment structure and offer these guys the money that they're worth to be able to keep them here. So that's been basically the whole start of it, because before that, you were losing players. They were looking at the first team, the likes of Dennis Serkin, Madueke, people like that. We're looking at the first team. No pathway for them. Even when players up there were struggling to do the basics, this, that, and the other, they weren't given any game time. So they weren't signing new contracts. They were leaving, going to other clubs where they'll be guaranteed first team football, and they make waves that way. So
do you know, Dave? Do you know how much difference? You guys both obviously know the story about the wage structure decision. What were they earning before, when it was all like flat rate, and then what sort of money are they earning now? What's the difference been? Do you know?
I think the thing is here, right? that McDermott, you know, and obviously Rastek afterwards thought, you know, don't pay them too much, but because what it does is it keeps them hungry. No, this is the 21st century, right? You're dealing with kids where, you know, the parents have sacrificed everything, and money is a major, major thing. It's not the be all and end all, right? I've got to tell you now, if you were offering the money and Conte was there, these kids would not be staying, right? I can tell you that right now. Conte was not interested in the youth. He put his faith in experience. And, you know, I think it was a comment he made last year. I've got no interest in the youth. It's for the youth and academy bosses to produce players and deliver them to me as a finished article. That's not what you want to hear. I know
it makes you question then why. In fact, I want to stick on the topic about the salary for a second, but we'll come back to this. But the question I want to know is, I guess, if we hired Paratici and this was the part of the plan, this was his vision to reset. To go through everything, right? To go and get the youth to hire, to find the best talent. And we can talk about why that is. And I've got my own, you know, opinion on just the inflation in player fees. What you get now for 50 million quid is insanely mediocre. And so how do the clubs find the value for money without needing to put the prices up of tickets or Beyonce, you know, concerts or whatever? There's this is the way to do it. But for me, it makes you question if Paratici came in with his vision and him and Conte were like best buddies, why was Conte the right choice if he had no interest in any of this that Paratici's vision was supposed to be based around? It seems like it's chalk and cheese.
Well, Levy wanted him. I mean, it wasn't, you know, let's be honest, right? Levy wanted the big name for the brand. You know, the brand is important to Levy. And, you know, he tried on his own, didn't he, to get him. But he knew that with Paratici's help, he could bring him in. You know, when push comes to shove, you know, Paratici suggests, Levy delivers.
So it's Levy basically saying, I want Paratici, but I also want Conte, and so like it's Levy's stupidity for wanting one system and then hiring a manager that's completely
he was a winner. He thought, because he doesn't know football. Levy, he thinks he knows football, and he thought Conte would be, you know, if I was going to set up two people on a date, right, I couldn't have think of a worse coupling than Conte and Levy. But, you know, Paratici broke all the mold here. You know, he broke the mold when he came in and told Hitchin, this is a joke, you know, putting the infrastructure, bringing in Gabonini, bringing in Scolding, bringing in Steinson, bringing in a whole new culture. But, you know, as I said to people 18 months ago, this stuff is going to take time. You know, he sacked all the Instagram kids. You know, these are the kids. My son plays for Spurs. Picture in the pay. You know, he got rid of all of those. There was a bit of uproar there because he culled them all. And what he did something that we didn't do. He started scouting and bringing kids in from all around the world. And I on my Spaces over a year ago, I said, we are focusing on 16 to 19, maybe 20-year-olds. That's where all the focus is. But people didn't want to hear that because we live in a society where it's just about now. They're not interested in the future. But this is a massive part of the rebuild of this club. People think of the rebuild as only the first team. But the rebuild has gone on to not only secure the talent that we have now in that youth system, but recruiting new players. And as you said, Sean, you know, what this enables us to do financially is bring players through and supplement it with one or two big 50, 60 million pound players like Arsenal do, who produce Saka and a Martinelli and all these players.
Saliba,
by key positions.
But that's why they're buying the likes of Declan Rice this summer, right? Because they've been able to save that sort of fund. But also, you know, you look at Man City on the other end of it, right? Look how much money they've made over the last two summer transfer windows from academy products they've produced and they've sold on. So you can also supplement your budget by cashing in on these guys as well. And it sort of comes back to what we were talking about yesterday, Shawnee, that, you know, we had the stadium, we got to the Champions League final, we had the training complex, but we didn't have everything else behind the scenes to be able to sustain that and to be able to act like a big club. And that's essentially what Paratici was brought in to do, was to be able to drag everything behind the scenes, to that standard, to that level. Johnny alluded to it. Look at the amount of youth players that they cut and the players that they're bringing in. Look at the amount of people they've put in various roles behind the scenes since then. That highlights that the club weren't at that level when we had the stadium and when we had the training complex, and we paid for it. And now we're trying to put everything in place. And just on the whole Antonio Conte thing quickly, I think we forget that, we went for Conte. It didn't happen. We brought in Nuno first. Nuno would have, at Wolves, he worked with youngsters. He was bringing youngsters through this, that, and the other. But
the youngsters weren't ready 2 years ago, right? Correct. The youngsters aren't ready now, to be honest. They're still not ready, but hopefully you're building a nucleus that in 2025, maybe this next season or the season after, you're going to have
18 months, Sean, I think we'll start to see 18 months, I think we're going to start to see the fruition. But I mean, it was the foresight to scout the top talent. I mean, when you think that players on our doorstep were going to Arsenal or Chelsea, or because our recruitment was so bad. Listen, McDermott was fantastic, right? Did a great job, went on to England, and Rastic, did a great job. And Chris Perkins, he's left, our main talent scout has left to go to Arsenal, right? So they weren't crap. But the difference is that there was a lot of overlap between the people that Gabbanini brought in. Now, Gabbanini is a top scout, right? He really is the top of his game. I know he's Udinese and Watford, and people think, that's not really that big. But he's very highly rated.
He's still a young guy, though, isn't he? He's only about 38 or something. He's young. I think he's younger than me, Gabbanini, isn't he?
He's not old. He's not old, that's for sure.
Yeah, I feel like,
a lot younger than
on that trajectory. He's probably going to be around doing things for the next 20 years,
So what he's done is he's brought in his people, and there was an overlap between, the scouting people, and so they've gone on to pastures new. But I mean, we brought in Herbie James from Man City, right? We wouldn't be doing these things. We wouldn't have been signing these players 18 months ago without him. The Lancashires, the Sosok Bells, the Papa Sars, the Adojis, right? If you look at our club now, from 17 to 20, we are probably one of the. I think we are looking amazing.
It looks like it. Our form in the table looks incredible. Smashing Manchester City, who are universally thought of. Dave, you mentioned it. I'll come back to you on this one. Man City are the team that go out there, and like you say, they find a way by selling these players. Not all of them are going to make it into Manchester City's team, but they sell the players. Like Pedro Porro, for example. They buy them young, they develop them, they send them out on loan, they end up selling them, they put 20% sell-on clauses back in, and when these players then emerge and make it, then Manchester City get cash dumped into their bank that's almost forgotten about. It's almost like sunk costs. And it's a wonderful way to then allow them to then just go and supplement 80, 100 million pound purchases or whatever for players that they need. And Arsenal doing the same thing, Dave. So I love it, to be honest. Not all of these players are going to make it into Tottenham's team, but some of them are going to go on to have healthy careers as long as we structure the future contracts or the deals correctly that we can benefit from their future success, Dave. Is that what you're seeing here? Is that the plan, do you think?
100%. You look at, over the last year and a half, a lot of our academy products have been tied down to 3 and 5 year contracts, which means some of them are tied up till 21, 22, 23 years of age. So they ain't going anywhere. And it means we can give them time to develop on a pathway. You look at what was the last academy product we sold, McCandy. I think we barely scraped £1 million for that. That's not sustainable. You've put more than £1 million into the guy's development over the course of his development through the academy. But you look at the league this year, and I think what highlights the biggest turnaround is that league last year we were due to get relegated from. Now the Premier League had a change, and they sort of They have one league now where there's no promotion, no relegation. And you look at it now, we're now top of that league and we're absolutely smashing teams. So that's been the biggest difference and the biggest the biggest turnaround. But look, I've always argued that, you have to produce youth players. You have to produce academy products because there's so many benefits to it. You look at Harry Kane, for instance, last year, right? When times were tough, his game didn't drop. But other players around them, the games did drop because they don't have that attachment to Tottenham. They don't have that sentimentality to Tottenham. So you get that within the kids. You get players that genuinely care about the club and want what's best for the club and will go the extra mile on the pitch for the club. But you can also, like Johnny was saying, you bring them through to the first team. Instead of making our budget spread over 7 players, which is what we've done over the last few years, all of a sudden you're looking, okay, I need 1 player. Right, let's go out and buy a world-class midfielder. Okay, you need a winger. Let's go out and buy a world-class winger. And you can
100%.
dump that money and invest it into that. But also, you look at Man City, people going, oh, how can Man City afford all these players without breaking financial fair play rules? Well, they've made over nearly 150 million off their academy products over the last 2 seasons. And when you look at what Man City have done, they've got academies out in Africa where they routinely come over and play their academy teams here in England. They've got setups. They've got good people here in Ireland. They've been able to get a few over from here, some of the best over from here, and that. And that's the way football is going. You know, you have to look at other alternative ways to be able to supplement your budget, but also be able to create a squad if you don't have Saudi Arabia's investment, and it's that simple.
Can I ask you a question, Shawnee? Is that the under 18s or the under 17s?
No, this is the under 21s, right? So it's interesting.
This is the cup.
Yeah, this is the Vans Trophy, the group stage. So we our under 21 team. I was just looking this up. I'm looking up all these teams right now. Wickham Wanderers are
We're obviously taking that one seriously.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, Wickham Wanderers are in League One. Peterborough in League One. I'm not sure I think Stevenage are also in League One. So whilst we are, let me just double check on that. Stevenage Borough. Have a look. Where are you?
We won.
Yeah, they're also
cup.
League
we
One.
Won the
Okay,
cup
so
game. We won our cup game, and we've won all 4 league games. So
we've got Colchester in this next.
And can I just say what normally happens?
I'll be wrong then. Is this out of date information?
Yeah, that's last year's.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Can't be right.
Okay.
Can't be right. The other thing is, don't forget.
Hold up. There you go. That's why. Sorry.
What we do is we bring in the 18s into the 21s as well. So Mikey Moore will be in that group.
Here we go. So we are. Oh no, it hasn't. Well, none of them have been updated yet.
Yeah.
But we're playing against Colchester. We've got a Colchester game on Friday night.
Yeah.
Peterborough still League One. Cambridge United, I think, are League Two. So we are. Is that the standard that our under 21s are at right now? If we're going to be able to win this group, is our under 21s team essentially League One level? Not quite.
No. This is well, this is interesting because it hasn't
been updated yet. These results haven't been updated, obviously.
Yeah,
but
I think this is this is men versus boys, right? I mean, if you go and watch, if you ever go and watch, League One games or League Two games, they're quite brutal, right?
Yeah.
And it's a wake up call. We saw with Scarlett when he went out to Portsmouth. And he was trying to play up front, and the managers told him to go play out wide. He didn't like it, had a bit of a hissy fit. It's men versus boys, and it's very good for their development. Can be a bit tricky for their fitness and injuries and what have you. But the benchmark, we're looking at. Sorry,
just quickly, Johnny. I think I figured it out. So the game that we won, that's the Premier League Cup.
Yes,
and we beat Sunderland. The first game of the Vans Trophy in that group is Colchester, who are a League One team, and that's on Friday night, I believe. Oh, that's Tuesday night. Tuesday.
And they will have their first. They will put their first team out because it's.
So that's wonderful, though, isn't it? I'd really like to see that Tottenham aren't just playing the 21. Our under 21s aren't just playing other kids. It's great to see us be tested against men
100%.
who put it about. I think I can't wait to watch that game on Tuesday.
But benchmark, Shawnee, right? Benchmark against your peers for the same age. We were way below Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal. We've been light years away. I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had, with my mate who's in football, about why are we so far? What's the old saying? Build it and they will come. We built this state-of-the-art training centre. The best facilities, some of the best facilities in the world, and we filled it with junk. And that's what Paratici did, and he was criticised for getting rid of them. He said, I'd rather have like 6 players in there that were decent and fill them up. And that's what we've tried to do. And long may it continue. My big worry about you, Dave, is that if they do bring in a DOF, right, I really am worried that someone comes in. Look, we've all seen it in our jobs, right? Guy comes in, he brings in his own people. He's not interested in Joe down the corridor. He's been top performer. He's not my man. I don't care. He's gone. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a Cole where, new DOF comes in, Gabonini's left, Scolding leaves.
Is that not why you'd want Paratici to be involved in that program? Either you don't do the new DOF, you run down the clock on his ban,
correct,
and then you wear the reputational damage of rehiring a guy who's got his background or whatever, or you let him be a ghost DOF who brings in someone who's his right-hand man, but essentially it's a partnership.
Well, that's Gabby.
So there's no one that comes in who completely upsets the apple cart and goes in a different direction. What's your thoughts, Dave, on that one?
Look, even when people are saying you got to get rid of him because of his the trouble at Juve, I've always stood by and said, look, forget about what's happening at Juve. Concentrate on what he's actually doing at Tottenham Hotspur.
100%.
And at the time, not a lot of people were seeing, the benefits of the recruitment or the benefits of the right people being put in place. Whereas now this season, we are seeing it. And for me, I'd actually just wait for him to see out his ban and bring him back in. I would leave the DOF role empty. I mean, look, I'm okay with Daniel Levy negotiating deals out of the club and the deals into the club for the time being until Paratici gets back, because we have to understand Paratici can go for a coffee with Daniel Levy and give him all the plans and the future plans for Tottenham Hotspur. What he can't do is ring any clubs on Tottenham Hotspur's behalf. And that's why we had so much trouble getting players out this summer, is because last summer, Paratici was able to use his contacts within the game to get them to take players on loan from us. Whereas this season, we struggled to do that. That's why we had so much left to do on deadline day. So the only real thing Tottenham need to do is, if they don't want Daniel Levy to do any of the negotiations, is hire someone else to do it. And just keep Paratici in the advisory role, because if you bring in a new DOF, Johnny's right, everything's going to change. He'll have his own vision, and a DOF ain't going to come in and want to just continue. He ain't going to subscribe to the remit of, I'll just continue on what Paratici's doing, because they're their own men. They have their own egos as well, and they have their own reputations. So he'll have his own vision. He'll have his own preferred type of player, which for instance, he might not want to go after you, this, that, and the other either. So for me, while we're after the turmoil we've been in, I get it's not an ideal situation to not have a director of football and wait for Paratici to sort of finish his ban. But it's beneficial for the club while we look like we're coming out of the dark side or the dark period and heading into a future that looks bright. For me, you've got to take that risk. You've got to take that gamble. If the only problem is negotiating deals, you can hire someone to do that.
I was just going to say, is it any different to having a manager buying all the players to fit that system and then bringing in a new manager when none of the players fit? It's exactly the same. And then sitting there with Deadwood, right? I don't see the point. I did see there 1 and 3/4 years left on his ban. They probably will challenge the ban at some point and try and get it shortened.
Well, part of it's already been revoked, hasn't it? Like the Italian side of it was already revoked, and yet the FIFA ban has maintained it's been put in place. But the FIFA ban was only there because the Italian authorities asked FIFA to extend the ban globally. They extended it, and then the Italian ban got revoked, but the FIFA ban remains. How does that work?
I think it will be changed up. I think it will be changed up, but if it was, I don't know. Look, I think Gabby's role in this is very important as well. He really is top. And I think he definitely, with Scolding. I mean, Scolding did a really good job at Rangers, bringing in Bassi and Aribo and a few others. I just think, well, our man Mundercover, who's Mundercover at the moment.
Yeah, can we talk about him? Let me type it into the.
We can't.
What's going on with Scott Munn? Is he when he finally gets?
We can't talk about
it. Fair enough. I like that. But what is the like?
Man,
do you think Paratici was instrumental in his hiring? Is there going to be? Does Scott Munn come in and he himself says, "I'm the CFO. Like I want to do things differently." Or
that's my worry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just clapped.
Who wants to go, Dave or Johnny? Whoever wants to talk about Scott Munn. I genuinely think that this guy. I hope that this guy's intention is to come in, and in the long run, it's to build out the multi-club ownership model, because that is the next stage. Assuming that Daniel Levy doesn't get bored and sells the club, that is the one thing that ENIC were great at. They were the initiators of the concept of multi-club ownership in football. Like back in the 90s, they owned
Athens,
Prague, Rangers, a club in Belgium.
And they all went Pete Tong.
Why they got told that you can't compete. You can't have two teams that can compete. So they got told to divest all of their ownership. They sold them all, and then about 2 years later, another club was doing it. I think it was I'm not sure if it was Red Bull or someone else who was the second coming, and then they were told, oh, it's okay. The UEFA changed the rules. As long as there's absolutely no overlap between the structure of who controls both entities, then it's not a conflict. And clearly, if you look at, I've been building a video about this for months and months and months, and it's going to drop at some point, but it's just because the game moves so fast. Every time I'm about to release it, something new happens with multi-club ownership, so I need to update the content. But in a nutshell, Leipzig and RB Salzburg, to sit there and say that there's no overlap between the two clubs is bonkers. They've had a higher frequency of trade between the two clubs by a factor of 7 than any two unrelated clubs who traded the most in the history of European football. So just sit there and say no overlap is just absolute nonsense.
But they managed to convince FIFA that there was nothing untoward.
Right. I mean,
so
to me, I think that Daniel Levy and Tottenham will probably at some point want to go back down that path. Go and buy a team in Denmark. Go and buy a team in Slovenia.
Well, Brighton are doing it.
Brighton are doing it, yeah.
Brentford owners have a team in Denmark as well that they've took some players from.
Yeah, they have. Exactly.
I just think that this whole Munn affair is embarrassing. I mean, I really do. Is Munn too clever? It's just like he appointed in April. Was it April? Yeah. And he's still. I call him the shadow now because he's lurking in the shadows. He's in games. He was on the plane to Australia, but you couldn't see him. He was there, but no one knew. What is he? What is the purpose? I mean, he's obviously broken his garden leave.
No, I think the purpose of him. I really hope the purpose of him is to build out the multi-club model.
It is.
He came from City Football Group, right? And
I
the greatest example of it. Yeah.
But will he be because he's not? What worries me, though, Sean, David, he's not a football man. Right? He's not a football man. No one's going to convince me he's a football man, right? I'm sorry. Working in Australia, working in China, right, does not gear you up, in my opinion, to understand the game in the Premier League. The Premier League and European football is a completely different animal, and you need someone with experience in that field. I understand he's got experience working in the City Group, and they're fearful that he will give them information. He's obviously broken his garden leave, which is why he's still not there, even though it was announced in April. But I don't want him to come in at the end of this month and say, I now announce a new director of football and start undoing the work that's been done. That's my biggest fear. It's working for the first time since, since Mitchell, right? In fact, this is better. In my opinion, this is the best talent that I can remember as a Spurs fan coming through in decades, really. I mean, I keep saying class of 92. It might come back to bite me on the arse, but I don't care. I've never seen this much talent at the club, and I don't want it ruined. I really don't want it ruined.
Yeah.
Do you know why? Do you know why it won't come back to haunt us, Johnny? So if you look at the under-17s and under-18s, it's different to the under-21s. We aren't buying players in and putting them in there. We've produced that squad ourselves, and that's the biggest difference. It's very similar to United at the time. They produced that squad through the academy. It wasn't, done by bringing in players from abroad or whatever and putting them in there. That stuff we've produced ourselves, and that's why I do think you will see a lot of them coming through, and that's why I call it the golden generation, the class of 92, because it's a bit different. On Scott Munn, I remember, Sean, when the whole thing broke about Scott Munn, I remember having a conversation with you, and I said, the route they're going down is you will see Tottenham buy another club on another continent very, very soon. And that's what this guy was going to be brought in to do. I remember having that conversation with you at the time, Sean.
Yeah.
And look, when you look at Scott Munn, right, Johnny's right. He's not a football person. It's not what he's here to do. He's here to for the financial aspect, for the growth aspect of it. You look what he done for the women's AFL game over there. He grew it exponentially. You look at some of the other
the Australian cycle division of the Olympics where he started out.
Are we going to have our own cycle team?
No, well, maybe there's plans to put a velodrome on the roof of the stadium. You know,
honestly, it wouldn't surprise me.
Around the car park. Yeah, why not?
But that's been Scott Munn's remit everywhere he's been, is to be brought in, develop, and grow. I don't think he's going to have too much say on the football side of things, or I hope not. There is a world where Daniel Levy can use Paratici for the football side of things and use Scott Munn for new ways to grow, new ways, the financial aspect of things. And eventually, I think Scott Munn's remit as well will be looking for opportunities on different continents, maybe somewhere else in and around Europe, to purchase another club. But this brings me on to my next point. You look at our under-21s this season, barely loaned any out, right? Barely loaned any out. I think you loaned out Scarlett, Troy Parrott, and I think there's one more. Let me get you the name.
Alfie Devine went
Alfie
to
Devine.
Port Vale, to the mighty Vale.
Immediately got promoted to the first team England training to help out. I mean, anyway, sorry, Dave, I didn't want to interrupt. Go on, mate.
No, I was just saying, like when you look at how very few we loaned out, I think the plan with that is, I think next season or towards the end of this season or next season when we get Europe and we have a lot more games coming in thick and fast, like Johnny said, 18 months time, that's when you'll see a lot of these guys or a couple of these guys being filtered through. It's not going to happen immediately because Ange is going to use the 25-man squad at his disposal this season. But next season, we're looking forward on the homegrown quota, right? We've seen the price of getting a player that's homegrown. It's extortionate. You've got the tax on top of it. So we ain't going to pay that. So what we're hoping is that we'll be able to bring through some of them under-21s next season, and some of the deadwood that currently qualify for homegrown will be pushed out the door. And then you add James Madison, Brennan Johnson to that. You bring Alfie Devine back after a year loan. You will have your homegrown quota nice and easy. So then it shouldn't be a problem in the market. But what used to be really good for clubs is they used to have affiliate clubs. So like Man United used to do it with that team in Belgium, Antwerp. They used to send players, 4 or 5 players over there at a time, and that was notoriously Sir Alex Ferguson's last destination for players out on loan before they came back into the United team. And essentially, this is what this sort of double ownership model is about. You see Udinese and Watford do it, right? They're constantly transferring players, younger players, this, that, and the other. And that could be the benefit if Tottenham could get their hands on the right club, that you can actually change the rules guys out from the academy.
The benefits of multi-club ownership, again, I don't want to spoil the video I'm going to drop at some point. I'll get around to it. But the benefits are far deeper than just a place to send your young talent to play competitive football. The benefits go
it's also a way of developing them, though, Sean, and you can have control over their development and their game
100%.
Whereas when you loan them out now, you've no control over it.
Yeah, the thing is, 100%. But on top of that, like the benefits around if you make sure that the other team that you're buying also follows the same philosophy of the football that you're hoping to be consistent. And obviously Tottenham have got a track record of pivoting from like playing military golf, like one shot into one rough and you go the other side and stuff. Like we pivot and from pillar to post all the time on what sort of football we're playing. Hopefully this now is the starting point, the basis. And we've already seen, I know you guys were telling me the other day that the under-21s train with the new Ange Ball system, which is great. If you go and get a team in Slovenia or wherever, then again, you can input the same thing. But on top of that, the benefits are also incredibly deeper in terms of data analytics. We know we're moving into the data analytics mold. You can share learnings from the various data points that happen between the clubs. You can also essentially do all of your back office operations in one hub for both clubs. So you minimize your cost structure. And it's a fairly insignificant slice of Tottenham's cost structure. I think 46% is obviously, it's not massive. It's not massive, but the back office stuff is like it's complex and it's time absorption. And if you
why would you sell Devine? Why would you send Devine to Port Vale? Because Port Vale ain't paying anything like Ange Ball. The one thing is though that's going to put look, Chelsea have ruined everything, right? First of all, you know, having 32 players out on loan caused UEFA to act to put in this new rule where you could have a maximum of 8. This season it's
7 next year, isn't it? And then 6 the year after.
6 year. There's 7 this year.
Yeah.
6 the year after.
But that's only overseas. That's only overseas loans, isn't it?
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is so it becomes more difficult with
multi-club ownership.
Multi-club ownership. Much more difficult. Because, for example, Brighton, they would buy a player and that player would go straight. They would tailor make a club. They would find a club where they would play similar football or that would suit them, send them to the club and monitor that club. I just think in his French purchase,
It's not just there. There's the guy that owns Bournemouth, the American fella.
Yeah, don't even talk to me about him.
I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name right now.
Look into the PaySafe.
Well, I forget his name, but he went and bought. I think it was him who went and bought Lorient, who's like a Division 2 team in France, and he wants to plug them into the multi-club ownership. It's a good point that Reece makes, that when you buy a club that is of an inferior level, and they are then considered to be a feeder club or a testing ground or whatever, but they are essentially there to make efficiencies happen at the top end of the pyramid structure where the real money can be earned. The local fans of those clubs who consider their club to be the priority, obviously, like Lorient fans, they're ultras. They went absolutely mental at the prospect of being bought out by the American guy, to the point where the deal fell apart. They didn't want to do it anymore because the ultras are like, we're not going to be taken over by an American. Like, you know how French people generally like that kind of thing, that not to make any broad sweeping statements.
No generalizations that they don't.
You know what I mean? Yeah, forget the generalization, but the French don't particularly want English or French people coming, English or American people coming in, telling them how to do their, to do their thing. So, there's complications to multi-club ownership as well, for sure. Sorry, Johnny.
No. I just look. I'm really excited about the future. I mean, I've been shot down so many times over the last year talking about Paratici, and it's Con Paratici. Get him out the club. Get rid of him. It's a bit like get rid of Emerson, get rid of Sanchez, get rid of Paratici, get rid of Richarlison. That's what we have in this club. There's no time like now. There's no time for making good or turning stuff around. And it's like the culture that we live in. Everyone wants it now. When I was growing up, you saved for things. You waited to see the benefits. And what's going on now, this fantastic drive. Look at the players. It's only now that I see people on Twitter going on about, Paratici, Don Paratici.
Yeah. There's too late.
6 months ago. 6 months ago.
Oh, you're back, are you? Oh, you're back with the Don, are you? Where were you for the last 6 months?
Yeah, where were you when you were slaughtering me? Right? Telling me. And I saw a guy. I won't mention his name. He does a stream, and he was saying that he doesn't buy into the old Don Paratici bag. He says. A lot of them are misses. A load of them are undecided. And, I don't know what planet he's on. Yes, you will say Richarlison has not been a success for sure. But add in all the other ones now. Look at some, how much is Destiny Adoji worth? How much is... I think we went through it, didn't we? On I think it was episode 4 of the Devil's Advocate. I think we went through all of the signings, and we ended up with him having about a 66% hit rate, Paratici. Yeah.
But let me ask you this, guys, right? We've been going for an hour. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to get to this. This was the main question that I have for you. Is that I think we
touched on that.
What's that?
I think we've been going an hour. We haven't even answered the question.
Yeah, the main question that I wanted to ask you guys is about we're all thinking right now, look, the future looks bright. The future is lily white. You've got an incredibly attractive looking under 21 outfit. We're starting to see the track record is changing where we're beating Chelsea, PSG, City to signatures of players like Vuskovic, right? Like it's like, wow, this is
12 million pounds. 12
right.
million pound we paid for him. I mean,
that's because our data model is putting us in the category where them clubs are already at.
100%, right? So it's all very interesting and exciting. However, where the rubber meets the road is what we haven't yet seen, which is any of these players making it through to the first team. Destiny Udogie and Pape Sarr aside, right? And maybe you make the argument, but we loan them back. I don't even know what transfer window you allocate Destiny Udogie to, because everyone called last summer an absolute failure, but Destiny Udogie was part of it, but everyone forgot about him technically, and then he's come in now. I don't know, it's a black hole. I'm not sure which window you allocate him to, but you need to give the credit where it's due. And Udogie, for me, is on current form, top three left backs in the Premier League, if not.
How much would Benson Core be worth if he hadn't got injured? Let's be serious, right? I mean,
how much is Udogie worth?
No, how much would Benson, if he hadn't been injured, Benson Core, we paid like 16 million pounds for him. I mean, I'm not being funny. And look at Basuma.
I think he's an 80 million pound midfielder right now, right? But my point is though, is that we've got these incredible talents that are going to try to break through. You know, not just the ones that are in the 21s, but the ones that are out on loan. I don't know if Dan Scarlett's going to be maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but Alfie Devine probably will be. We've got a few others that are knocking about. I think we can write off people like Troy Parrott. I think those guys have not really demonstrated that they're ready for it. However, the problem and the question that I have for you is we also have an incredibly young, youth-centric first team. We've got 2 players in Udogie and Sarr that could currently play in the under-21s. We've got about half a dozen players that are first-team regulars that are 23, 24, just 25 or under in Romero, Van der Ven, Porro. People think that Porro, like just because he's come from City to Sporting, what he's done in his career, how successful he's been, people forget that he's 23. Kulusevski's 23. Manuel Solomon's 25, 24. You know, I mean, Maddison and Bissouma are considered old in Tottenham, but they're 27. They haven't even reached their peak yet. So to me, you look through the first team, and for the vast majority of them, they probably got better part of 7-8 years left in their career or more. So to me, where the rubber meets the road is how do these guys get the opportunity when they clearly have higher talented or more talented players currently in the first team that still have so much time on their side, both in their career and in their contract? How do we balance getting these players into the first team and seeing what they're worth?
Well, you know, I think you'll already see it with the likes of Ashley Phillips, right? You know, you hear out the deadwood that, you know, I get people may not like it because, you know, for instance, Sanchez, he's 27. People see him as experienced. He's an international player. But what good is that when he continues to make a mistake and cost us goals every single time he takes the pitch? So we have to try something new. And I think you look at the centre-back situation, that's exactly how it's going to pan out. You look at some of the other players left around, like I spoke about, homegrown players that just aren't good enough to be here, that eventually will be shipped on. And that's where these guys come in and they form a place in the squad. And then once they're in the squad, then it's up to them then to try and displace the guy in the first team. But look, you know, this season we're playing 1 game a week the majority of the season. And so I don't think you're going to get too many injuries that will come into play. But next season, when we get Europe, you're going to have games every 3 to 4 days, and you're going to have a high turnover. And that's where a lot of these guys will get game time. It's where they should have got game time down the years previous.
Even if we get Champions League?
Not Champions League, but you'll have League Cup and FA Cup games. That's traditionally where a lot of these youngsters have gotten their minutes. That's where a lot of them are getting, you know, traditionally when I was growing up, we're getting their opportunities, and it's up to them to take it from there. You take it in the cup games, you make the bench for League and Champions League, and you continue that development. You get minutes off the bench, you take them, and then you continue the development. That's exactly how you do it. And for me, it's just about clearing out the pathway. You've seen it now with Phillips. Dorrington will be the next one dragged up after that. Then you bring in Vuskovic to develop. He'll be the next one up after that. You're saving money on centre-backs, which Tottenham don't like spending
Massive.
on anyway.
Massive.
Absent injuries, Johnny.
Yeah.
Does Ash Phillips get minutes this season?
Right. Well, I was going to say, the one thing for me is, as an 18-year-old striker, you can afford to miss the chance that will be given and get away with it. Another one will come. As a winger, the same. In the midfield, the same.
Yeah. The further back on the pitch you go, the more pronounced the mistake is. Goalkeepers cost a goal, defenders cost a chance. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And I don't want to see him destroyed, right? Is Ashley Phillips a massive talent? 100%, right? I got told about him when he was 16. And, I asked about him in January and I was told the deal was dead in the water. Nothing was happening. And I forgot about it. But look, the guy's left foot, right foot. He's got pace. He's got power. He's got everything. But he's just 18 years of age. And I just think that it's a massive, massive risk to throw him in and destroy his confidence. If you can name me all the 18-year-old centre-backs that have played in the Premier League and gone on to have fantastic careers, I think there'll be very few. Probably Rio Ferdinand, maybe John Terry. I would have to look. If someone out there's watching now and look and see how many centre-backs came in at the age of 18 into a top Premier League team and established himself. I'll be very interested to see.
Maybe, I don't know. Van Dijk at Southampton was pretty young when he started at Southampton. Maybe I think Rio Ferdinand is probably the obvious candidate. He was young.
There aren't many. There aren't
not many. No, not at all.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is greatness. And I'm not saying I think he's going to have an incredible career. But like Dave said, him, Dorrington, Van der Ven, Romero, Vlasic, right? Okay, that's our centre backs. That's our centre back defence taken care of. Look at the midfield.
Are we done now potentially for 10 years?
I reckon we're done. I reckon we are done. I think there is a possibility that they will need to buy another left-sided centre back cover. Is my opinion.
Johnny, do you not think Dorrington will play there? Because he plays on the left for the under-21s, and he did last year.
I just think he's a bit behind Phillips. Personally, I think he's behind Phillips. Phillips.
I don't want to see Dorrington come in for the same reasons you said. Johnny, I think it's such an important point to remember that, like you said, when Harry Kane, even like the very best, it doesn't take every chance, right? But when he misses a goal, it's all right, whatever. You know what? They're still 0-0.
He's a kid.
It is what it is. But as you go down the pitch,
yeah,
the outcomes of a mistake get exponentially worse. A goalkeeper makes a clanger, you lose a goal. A striker makes a clanger, you just don't score a goal. Defenders,
we got about 19 keepers. I think we got about 19 keepers at the last count. I've lost. Yeah. I don't know if we're collecting keepers, but I mean Gunter is Gunter is going to be a top.
He's the captain. Keeper. He's the captain of the 17s and the 18s, isn't he? And he's only 16
he's
or something.
An unbelievable keeper. But we've got the fantastic Irish boy.
Very highly rated over here. Very highly rated.
Yeah, Keeley. And so the recruitment, guys. The recruitment is unbelievable. I mean, we had an empty shell. This beautiful building with nothing in it, and now I'm telling you, we've got fantastic
furniture in place.
We got beautiful furniture in, right? We're going to polish it up. And when it comes out the other end, right, everyone's going to want to buy it. And we haven't finished. Vlasic was a surprise. I can't believe we signed him, right? Because every major club was after him. City, the only reason I heard of him, I got a lot of crap from people because they said, oh, yeah, like you watched him. No, I didn't watch him. But he was drawn to attention. When a player comes in, and makes his unofficial debut at the age of 15, in a friendly, and makes his debut 2 days after his 16th birthday, and plays 90 minutes in a fierce derby against Dynamo Zagreb, and then scores a goal 5 days later on his second debut.
I mean, the only challenge I have on that. Oh, sorry, Dave, you wanted to come in and say something. Sorry, I'll come back. I'll come back to this in a second. Okay, I'll make my point quickly, and I'll let Dave get back to the point he was going to make. The only challenge I would have on Vuskovic, if that's how you say his name, is that when you're 6'4" and you're playing for the under-18s or the under-21s, you are, and he is like literally, physically, head and shoulders above everybody else. And I know he's a very talented. He looks like a real talent, of course.
Playing in the first team, sure.
Yeah, but at 6'4", you are physically, bigger than everybody else. Yeah, but it's whether, for me, the concern I was going to go with it is that if he's put on an inch in the last month, because I read an article that measured him at 6'2.5", and the article was in May. He's now 6'4", and it's only September, right? So, at what point is too big? Like I know people in my comments will laugh at me because I'm always talking about how small our team looked at one point. You know, how many small players have we got? I am a heightist, but I don't prejudice. You could be too small or you could be too tall. And I wonder if he by the time he gets to us when he's 18, the guy could be 6'9", and at that point you have to go like that might be an issue for his physicality, for his ability to move.
Come on, man! Right?
We signed him for our future NBA team.
Listen, Sean, at the end of the day, look,
Daniel Levy's not just at the NFL franchise, he's got the NBA one on the back of his mind as well.
He's 6'4" at 16 and he's playing against men at 16. Imagine going to a park and, as a grown footballer playing with a 16-year-old. Listen, look, if we were talking about Switzerland or something like that, I could understand, right? But we don't want to know about you growing 10 inches at a drop of a hat.
Yeah. Right? Is that just when you discovered girls, mate? Is that when you grew 10 inches?
Reece, no one likes to show off, mate.
Exactly.
What was I going to say? I mean, look, the thing is to impose yourself at level at that age is quite incredible. But look, the thing is, we've got potentially Lancashire, Sosok Bell, Donnelly. I'm not sure about the other two, but Donnelly's definitely going to be a player. In the midfield, we got Mikey Moore, we got Rio Kitamarian. We've
Tyrese Hall.
Yeah, I mean, we could just go through half of the players that we've got coming through. They're all over the place. Where there literally are some exciting times ahead. I just want to see progression this season, and that's the reason I was told we didn't buy an out-and-out 9. Okay, want to leave the pathway clear. Let's see what happens.
For who? For Veliz?
Could be Donnelly.
It could be Donnelly, but Veliz is 19.
Donnelly a striker? I thought he was an attacking mid.
He plays everywhere.
No, he's a striker.
You ask him to play somewhere, he'll play it. He played, I think, 6 positions. Was it last year, Dave?
For the under-21s last year, yeah. He played everywhere. He played all across the midfield. He even played centre midfield, played up front. And you know what? The impressive thing is, and the reason why he's so highly rated is because no matter where he was asked to play, his standard didn't drop. He was still producing, still affecting games, assisting goals, scoring goals. And he was actually due to go on pre-season tour as well before he pulled his hamstring the day before they left for Australia. So, I reckon there'll definitely be one eye on him as well, for sure. But look, we have to understand, right? I think we've all accepted over the last few years, we ain't going to go out and spend 100 million, 200 million pound on a player. And how many places we had to fill in the squad just to get a first 11 out there, it was never going to be the case either. But this is the other way around it. And this is what Tottenham are trying to do. But, in order for fans to get aboard with this, the club have to come out, and they should do it at the fans forum, and tell people what the plan is so that people can get behind it. Because what you're seeing now every single window is some people, half the fan base expect us to go out and sign top players, and the other half of the fan base have said, look into what Paratici has done. Your signings are going to be 25 or under, and they're going to be picked off from other clubs with room for us to develop. We ain't going out and paying top dollar for a player under 25 either. It ain't happening. So, this is where the club have let themselves down. When they announced Paratici, they never gave what the plan was.
Correct.
And that's why you see all the stuff around Paratici as well. So it's important that the club announce what the plan is, because for someone like myself and Johnny, who more or less seen it from the outset, what the future plan was, lowering the average age of the squad, right? People say we don't want to give the likes of Phillips not a chance. Okay. But we've lowered the average age of the squad. Look at the levels of performance. Look at the amount of running we're doing now compared to previous. Look at the amount of basics we're executing now on a consistent basis that we weren't doing. So that should dare and tell you that age is only a number. If you're good enough, you're old enough, and you'll never know until you give these guys a chance. And when you look at some of the English guys we've signed, the clear plan is to bring them through as homegrown players for the senior squad for registration, so we don't have to go out and spend money on the likes of the homegrown tax that is put on all these players. And that's the future plan. And I think, for me, I look at it, you've got a golden generation between the under-17s and under-18s, and what they've done with the under-21s is they've reduced that size of the squad So now you're actually having a crossbreed where some of the under 18s and under 17s, they're coming up and they're playing with some of the under 21s. So they're already playing years above. And with the under 21s, I think you'll see them play the under 21s, and you might see them get a few games in and around just after the Christmas period. My opinion. I think that's how we're going to fill out the squad. I think, next season.
Yeah. Well, that's why the cup was such a massive. Look, I'm not going to say anything about Ange, right, other than something mental happened that day, because to make 9 changes when, let's be honest, look, Dave, had we won through that game and we were home against Norwich or Ipswich, we would have drawn. I reckon he would have blooded some of the kids, and I would have been happy for it, to give these kids time. You know, I just did not understand, and I do not buy he needed to see players. He didn't need to see Sanchez. He knew what Sanchez was. He didn't need to see half of those players. He knew, and he'd already decided which players were going to get binned.
Do you know what, Johnny? It was I was listening to his TalkSport interview this morning, and he was asked about the Fulham game, and I wasn't particularly impressed with his answer. Again, he didn't talk about that. If I didn't see them, I won't know what they're about. Answer this time around, he said, "Of course we wanted to win, but ultimately it's not about winning this trophy. It's about the project."
Yeah,
and I'm like, what? Which is it? Like, now you flipped from. Listen, I'm not criticizing him. I love the guy, but I just want to point
wash
out.
With me. Didn't wash.
Yeah, 100%. Right, it didn't wash with me either. I think he knows he made a mistake and probably should have just. But he doesn't have to own it in public. Well, it doesn't matter.
I just want to say something on that, because, you know, look, whether we agree with it or not, right? No one questioned the 9 changes he made in reverse than the team that slapped Burnley 5-2, right? No one's talking about the amount of changes again he made for that game. And regardless of what people think of Antonio Conte, he said it about a lot of them guys. They don't want to play under pressure. Over preseason, many fans said, "Oh, how comes the second half team looks better than the first half?" And used the second half team, some of them being able to execute the basics, to have a dig at Antonio Conte. Then, you know, many people were saying, "Oh, well, look, let's keep Sanchez around. You know, he's got some more attributes than Dyer. He's okay as a backup." But when the reality of him being a backup kicks in, fans don't want it and then blame the manager. And we can't keep doing that. And when you look at Antonio Conte's comments about not wanting to play under pressure, when you look at Harry Kane's comments saying it's okay at Tottenham to lose a few games and no one raises any eyebrows, there's your problem. It's the players, not the manager. Yes, you can go, the manager picked them. But as we've seen in preseason, they were doing what he asked them to do. In training, I have no doubt they're doing what he asked them to do. But as soon as there's a game with anything riding on it, they crumble. It affects them. They get stage fright and they can't even execute the basics. So yes, we can sit here and call out, you know, Ange Postecoglou for it. But again, I think he's making the same mistakes as previous gone by, where you don't want to focus on the level of quality of the player put out there. And the fact that they performed preseason, and then when there's something on the line, they can't do it. But yet we want to blame the manager. He has a 25-man squad. He has to utilize it. Same fans that criticized Postecoglou for changing up were the same fans underneath Antonio Conte begging for him to switch it up. So what do we want?
Well, it's not, for me, it's not about the result. It's about the justification of the decision, which is where I think the question marks are. Just come out and say what your decision really was. Like, he defended it initially by saying, if I don't see them, how do I know if they'll work in my system? Which doesn't add up to me, because there's no value in putting in bullshit. If you're going to try and see where the B team players work with the A team, then there's no benefit if the entire A team becomes the entire B team. It doesn't work. There's no logic there. That thing got unraveled, and now he's saying, well, it wasn't about that either. It doesn't really matter about the club. Like, of course we wanted to win, but ultimately it's about the project. I just there's inconsistency in the logic. It doesn't. I'm over it. I'm certainly not annoyed with him.
But it's costing us.
Hold everyone to account. When I've got an opinion, it doesn't matter whether I love Harry. If Harry Kane had it when he was playing for Tottenham, or Sonny when he is, or Maddison. If Maddison has a terrible game against Sheffield United, I'm going to say he had a terrible game. And I think that Ange had a terrible night in the Fulham. And I think that that's fine. You should be able to critique even a guy that you are delighted is here and you're happy with what he's done. The people make mistakes, you can own them. You know?
It's massively out of character, and this is what I don't understand. I think something has gone on. It wasn't just the 9 changes, which made no sense. It was the substitution when Gio got injured. He brings on Scarlett and no midfielder.
So the last player I was thinking was going to come on at half time was Dane Scarlett, and he was the only person.
And not put any creative midfielders to supply them any balls, and allowing Sanchez to take a penalty. There were so many decisions that it was almost like it was done on purpose to knock us out, and it makes no sense because this competition would have given. I mean, Jamie Donnelly's dad made a tweet saying, really unfortunate that we went out because it was an opportunity potentially for the kids to get game time and get minutes.
Well, Johnny, let me ask you this.
You'll see that now in the FA Cup. You'll see that.
He'll be critiqued. He will if we get a Marine FC or whatever in the cup, then I think it'll be fine to do that. But if we get a team that's championship or above and he puts some of these kids in, I think he'll get. You can't
do that then.
If it goes against you. So what the final 2 questions that I have for you guys, I'll ask them both now, and then I'll see where you guys want to take that. But one is for this season, whereas in the past Tottenham in the last 2 years have never been in a comfortable position in any game. Therefore, it's difficult to do what Liverpool do. Klopp does when they're 4-0 up. You bring a kid on for 15 minutes around the first team. The nucleus is still there. And you bleed the kids in. Tottenham haven't had the opportunity to do that under Conte ball or Nuno ball or whatever, because we're in that position or very rarely. So do you see that those are the opportunities if Ange Ball gets us into positions this year in the league where we are comfortable against lower half teams where you'll get it? But more importantly, the bigger question I've got for you is next season, in order to give these kids a chance, is it better for Tottenham to not finish in the Champions League and to finish in the Europa League or the Conference League spot, so that the level of the opposition that we face in the European games allows us to play some of these kids and give them the pathway to the first team that we're trying to find out the route to see?
If you'd have asked me, if you'd have turned around and Ange had made a statement, guys, look, I know you all wanted to win a trophy, but for me, I really like to see our under-21s and our youth. So what I'm going to do against Fulham, I'm going to play a lot of our youngsters. Don't grudge them if we lose, right? And he'd done that against, like Arsene Wenger did when for Arsenal for quite a long time, the early stages of the cup, he played all the kids. No Spurs fan would have said, oh my God, because he's declared it, he stated it, and we're blooding the kids in and everyone will be excited to see the kids and they can understand it. But to tell us that you're doing that and you're putting in all the players we all know that are no good, that need to go, a lot of them, and playing them in that team is nonsensical. So I think if we got into the Champions League, then he would have to choose to make the
more difficult. It's more difficult to bleed the youth, isn't it?
I would play them in the Carabao. So that's my point. I would play them in the Carabao Cup because next year those kids will be a year older. 18 will be 19, 19 will be 20, and I'd like to see those kids be our mainstay in the lesser cup. I think the FA Cup is.
Then all the Tottenham fans will go mental when we've sacrificed a cup, when we get beaten by a team that doesn't play the youth again. It's a difficult juggling act, isn't it?
If you declare it first that is the aim, to try and bring through, like Arsenal did. I didn't see Arsenal fans complaining when they were playing all these young players and they were still winning games. But you could keep the olders on the bench. You can put your stars on the bench. There's no rule to say you can't. But what you don't put, maybe it's clear. You don't put 11 youth players out. That's not what I'm saying.
A few here and there. A couple here and there.
Yeah, you
4 or 5.
4 or 5, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you sprinkle that with like so.
What would you say, mate? If you specifically talking about, I know obviously everyone wants us to win the Champions League, therefore got to be in it to win it, kind of thing. Obviously, but for the specific purposes of trying to find a pathway through to the first team, is there any argument to suggest it's better for Tottenham this season to finish 6th or 7th in order to be in the Europa League or the Conference League in order to find more opportunities to test out these children?
Look, I think if you're a player in your under 21s and you're looking at certain spots in the team, I think you probably would want your Tottenham to finish in a Europa League or Europa Conference League, because with the amount of travel you're going to end up doing, ultimately you're going to end up getting some game time. I mean, Nuno gave the likes of Scarlett and Gill and people like that some game time in the last Europa Conference League sort of um, qualification campaign we had. The only problem with that is the experienced players we had around them, like Doherty, Davies, Sanchez, people like that, who we know just aren't good enough. But look, as a club, I think it's more beneficial we finish in the Champions League. I want to see our young, hungry handball team in the Champions League taking on the best teams in the world. But, that's where ultimately you use the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, which is what it's always traditionally been used for. You blood 4 or 5 youngsters and you put them in and around with some of your players that are on the fringe of the first team, the likes of Perisic, for instance, right? Doesn't start every week, but you put him in that left wing. You put an experienced goalkeeper behind him. If you want to play Dorrington and Phillips as centre back, you put, Emerson at right back and someone else at left back. You fill in around it, but
correct, yeah.
Ultimately you bring through 4 and 5. Like when you look at the under 21s, right? We're not naive. We know not every single one of them are going to come true. Don't get me wrong. They'll all have serious talent, but they ain't all going to make it at Tottenham. But we have to look at them first before we can make that decision in games with something on the line. And that's where the Carabao Cup and FA Cup games will be useful. We've always used it for that down the line, especially the early rounds. A lot of the big 6 teams have done it traditionally. United were most famous for it. They were able to put out 4 or 5 players and have senior players dotted in around that and go and win games easy.
That's
and
how
there's
you
no
do
reason.
it, Dave, right? That's how you do it.
But see, Johnny, the reason why there's a shift now where it's like we can't make any changes is because of the dross and the shit we've had to watch over the last few years. If the first team was that bad, whenever we did make changes, the cup teams and that were even worse again.
Well, look at Sheffield last
season. And that's why we're in a place now as a fan base where everyone's like, you can't make changes. But and I've always said this, once you get rid of like the shit out of the team, you'll see the improvement on the pitch. We're seeing that. Once you shift them completely out of the squad, you will fill it out with young, hungrier players, and you can afford to make them changes in the cup. And we have to get back to that stage. Unfortunately, under Steve Hitchin, we accumulated too much shit, which derailed everything at Tottenham Hotspur.
I've got to say, I've just found the post, Dave, from this person who should remain nameless, who has a stream. He's good signings. Parachici's good signings were Romero, Sarr, Bentancur, Basuma, Doji, Vicario, Mickey van der Ven, and James Maddison. The undecided.
Well, sorry, Johnny. What's this, mate? Sorry, what is this?
This is a list of Parachici's signings, and these are the undecided. We don't know if they're good or bad. None of them.
In the opinion of someone.
Yeah, I just said it's an opinion, right? You can't. These are facts, right? They're not facts, right? He's undecided whether they're any good or not. Perisic, Kulusevski, Emerson Royal, Pedro Porro, Ashley Phillips, Manor Solomon, Brennan Johnson, and Aleo Veliz, right? These are ones who've just even decided.
So 4 of those 6 have just signed and haven't played, right? So
I know.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough to put them in the don't know bucket, right?
And
who were the other 2? Perisic and
Brennan Johnson, Solomon, Ashley Phillips, Pedro Porro, Ivan Perisic, which I don't understand how he's bad or undecided when he scored 11 assists, got 11 assists last season. Kulusevski and Emerson Royal.
Okay.
And the bad are Dan Juma, as I pointed out, he was on loan for 6 months. Fraser Foster, Clement Longley, again on loan. DJ Spence, Richarlison, Gill, and Galini.
I think Fraser Foster was arguably our best signing last year, like personally. So I don't think he's obviously not a mind blowing transfer.
But this is what you've got. This is a whole feature.
Who were the other 2?
The other 2, Brian Gill, bad signing.
That's probably as much as I want to see more from him. I think in terms of like, has it been a success? Probably hasn't, has it? I think we all agreed when we did our show 2 weeks ago that he was a miss.
Yeah,
I think Clement Longley. I don't know. Clement Longley was he about?
How can you class a loan deal for 6 months or a year a failure when it's just a loan? You know.
Well, I think Dan Zuma didn't really work. I mean, I don't know. It depends on the context and how whoever that is presenting it. But for me,
facts. He's declared them as facts.
Oh, okay.
These are
well,
facts.
They're opinions, aren't they? So,
they're opinions. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Look, I mean, look, guys, it's
Can we bookmark this and come back next year?
Well, I do think that I think a lot of the signings that we're looking at right now, I don't know. Is it too early to call Udogie a success? I don't think so. I think he hit the ground running, right? I think
called him a success a year ago. I was told to calm down when I said he's probably one of the best 3 centre backs, left wing backs for his age in Europe. Nothing's changed my mind, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I genuinely think that you'll struggle to find, on current form at least, maybe a Stupinan at Brighton. I think is a class left back who's been there and done it. But I'm not even sure if Manchester City have a left back. Ake, I don't think he counts, so I don't think you can really consider him. And
Gusto is very good. The Chelsea boy. Gusto.
Yeah. Chilwell, Dan Burn. I don't know. I think you got to put what's his name, Udogie, on this season's form thus far as one of the best best left backs in the league. Dave, what would you say?
Look, I think he's hit the ground running for sure. I think he's been incredible. He shows he can look after himself defensively. He doesn't really need anyone to come over and help him either. He's well able to look after himself one-on-one. I think he's brilliant on the ball as well going forward. Not only can he get on the ball and dribble with it and skin players himself, but he can also link up with players like Sean against Bournemouth with Sonny, right, for the assist for Kulusevski's goal. So I think currently when you look at Udogie, I think he's been absolutely brilliant. And I think, you can look at him and say there's enough talent there to say he's going to be a hit at Tottenham. Look, as much as, we also have to be wary that, look, underneath Antonio Conte, last year we got off to our best start ever to a Premier League season. It got derailed. Under Jose Mourinho, we were top. It got derailed in and around winter time. Nuno got sacked in October. Pochettino lost his job in and around October as well. Or was it November? So for me, October, November have been very, very sort of difficult periods for this football club over the last 3 to 4 years. And we've been here before. So I think for me, you just have to, once we can get through the October, November period and everyone's form is being maintained and stuff like that, then I think, we can sit here and have, a lot more clearer judgment on maybe some of the signings we've made this summer and that. But look, hopefully, hopefully it's here to continue because we've been here before. And like I said, it's derailed off around October, November. So, the true testament of these players and the signings will be, can they continue it on past October and November? Because previously you'd put all the recent run of forms and starts under all the other managers down to new manager bounces, right? That's what's been Tottenham for the last 3 to 4 years. So, give this one a bit more time. And I think, obviously, with time, I think you maybe start seeing people maybe give a bit more credit to Paratici and stuff like that. People, I think, just want to see proof in the pudding first. And I think once that happens and they see Tottenham steering in the right direction, you might see a bit more praise on the recruitment side of things.
I think they want to eat the pudding, make sure it tastes nice before they'll ever admit that they got anything wrong. And they could possibly have got it wrong. Look, all I know is...
Sorry, who was it? Was it Will Stewart? Was it his list? Is that what you're saying? I don't know what you're talking about.
It was Tottenham away.
Okay, well, so he's part of Will Stewart. Okay, Tottenham, he was part of Will Stewart. Okay. I mean, I haven't seen the list, but to me, I think that a lot of them, from what he said, whoever it was, Stella, whatever, doesn't sound like they're...
It's not facts, though, is it? It's an opinion. And,
of course.
What I pointed out is you're judging Paratici based on signings alone. You're not basing it on the infrastructure, the fact that there was nothing there, the fact that he's brought in all these people, the fact that we're recruiting these players now that we would have never have got before, that we managed to secure all of the, like Dave and I were saying before, convince Levy to break the wage structure, to secure all these top talents on long contracts, and to change the whole.
But all of that stuff is like, whilst I'm very excited, and I'm you guys have convinced me, obviously, of all of these wonderful things that are happening in the background with the youth, and Rome wasn't built in a day. Ultimately, I guess the reason for the show in itself was none of it, whilst it all looks great at the moment, the potential
behind the curtain.
Well, but the potential there's like the ceiling is sky high as a cathedral, but ultimately none of it, with the exception of Udogie and Sarr, none of this youth-centric model yet has filtered through to hit the first team. So
it has because their recruitment was 16 to 20, right? And so Papa Sarr, Udogie,
those two
were all part Phillips. They're all part of that recruitment. So Phillips is in the first team squad. Udogie is playing, Sarr is playing, and you'll see more and more over the next 18 months.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean, though. Like I'm hopeful, and I think that everything is structured in a way that looks like the future is very bright. But if our boy Vescovic comes back to us in 18 months' time and he's 7'3" lurch, I don't know if
you're right.
I don't know what we're working with. Then. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, the future hasn't yet. Like, the future looks bright, but the future hasn't kind of become the present yet, right? So we have to kind of wait and see, I guess, right? Dave, would you agree?
Yeah. Look, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Look, that's I've been saying it on my channel as well. I'm loving the good start and I'm excited and I'm enjoying it while it's here. But you go back and you look at what's happening around October, November over the last 3 to 4 years. You can't deny that. And for me, it's about getting through that period and showing that we can maintain the same level of performance, the same style of play and everything else. And I think once you can get by that period, which I think we have a chance to, by the way, because, players before that, the likes of Dyer and Sanchez and people like that, let's be honest, the reason why you were seeing the high managers turnover and, an initial sort of jerk underneath a new manager is purely because the players have to give that level of performance when a new manager comes in because of what they've done under the previous manager. And they're trying to make it look like that they weren't the problem. And I think they were. So I think you'll see us get past the October, November period. And look, with Paratici, I think we have to also understand that, it's hard for people to see what the plan is when you need players for the here and now. And what I mean by that is at the time when Paratici came in, we need players for the first team to hit the ground running for the here and now. But with the way we spend money, we were never, ever going to get it all done in one window. And with the amount of dross we accumulated, it was always going to take time to do. So I can understand the frustrations and maybe the skepticism of Paratici because of them reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, you might get a few revised opinions once we can get past the October, November period. And there is proof on the table to show that it's not just another new manager bounce.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
I 100% agree, mate. I definitely 100% agree. Like, we are... I don't want to come across like... I'm getting sucked into the... I've made, 3 or 4 different videos on my walks about, like, is it time to reset expectations? For me, it's not. I think Tottenham fans need to remember that, at least in my world, in my audience, I was asking everyone, what is it you expect from Tottenham under Ange Ball? What is it that you want from this season? And the kind of consensus generally was top half finish, nothing extraordinary in the league, maybe a cup run here or there, but ultimately just good football, reset, let's get that thing going and everything can build from there. And the start's been superb, but Dave, you make a great point. Is it the new manager bounce or is it not? I think that personally, that whilst he hasn't had that much time with these guys to learn this system, the players are learning the system and are going to improve. But at the same time, I think that other clubs, when they have a more of a higher sample size of analysis to go through with regards to Tottenham's strategy, I think that other clubs who are smart will figure out some of the vulnerabilities within the system as well. So you have to kind of let it all play out and before you kind of jump to any conclusions. But with regards to the youth system, which is the purpose of today's show, I personally think everything looks super promising. But until those players break through, we're never going to be able to really give it a 10 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10 until we see the rubber meet the road.
Well, can I just say one thing, Sean, right? And, for the Paratici haters out there, right? You all applauded the performance against Burnley. Yet when I pointed out there's only one player on that pitch that wasn't a Paratici signing. 10 of the players on that pitch against Burnley were signed by Paratici, right? 10 of them.
Wow.
Okay. So,
didn't know that.
guys,
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Get real. They acknowledge the guy has changed what's gone on in his club, both on the pitch, off the pitch. And I don't understand. They need a fall guy. They need a fall guy. Our fan base needs a fall guy, whether it's on the pitch, off the pitch.
Yeah.
There's someone's got to pay the price. Doesn't matter if it's successful.
It's human nature, isn't it? That's just human nature, John.
Well, I just don't know. So, if we go on to have a fantastic season, will it only be Ange that gets the praise? Because I think it will. I don't think, it's Ange.
What does a fantastic season look like for you at this stage?
Progression. To carry on in this, playing this football. Listen, I don't mind bumps along the road. I don't want massive potholes, right? But I expect to get tanked now and again, 3 or 4-0 in certain games when it
happens against Arsenal. Is there a meltdown? Do you think?
Oh, this fan base, of course. I mean, come on, right? It's the journey. We're on a journey, and this is the start of the journey. I believe this is the very start, and as Shanks says, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we're at the very, very embryonic stages of Angeball. He says himself he's nowhere near where he wants to be.
Yeah. Which is exciting, right?
Well, his motto, I like his motto, we don't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which for me is great,
So would you just last question. Sorry, we're miles over time. I thought we were going to be finishing an hour and a quarter, but it's just been such a great conversation as it always is. Last thoughts on this one. Dave, I'll come to you first, mate, and then obviously let us know where people can find you. Your link is in the chat. It's going to be in the title. Second, I finish the show. Are we looking at Paratici right now? Can we say that Paratici has been a success or a failure, either or? At this stage, for me, I think it's just these things take a long time. The yield takes, or the fruit is a slow bear, right? And I think that it's starting to improve. And people that called him a failure a year ago shot their load too soon. But I also think people that are calling him a success right now, based on what we're seeing this stage, is probably also shooting the load too soon. I think it's going to take a year and a half more to see the dividends, whether they emerge or not. Dave.
Yeah. Look, you're 100%. And I'm guilty of it myself at times as well. But look, I think you have to acknowledge the good and the progress and the vision and the direction we're going in. I think you have to acknowledge that. I think come the end of this season, if we have a good season, we continue on the football we're playing, and maybe we get back into Champions League football, because I think it could end up being top 5 this year. I think you'll see a lot of people maybe say, look, yeah, okay, I'm on board now. I've got the proof in the pudding. We've got a season behind us. Adoji's a massive upgrade. Van de Ven's a massive upgrade. Romero is. The players we signed at right back, the keeper, the midfielders. Once they see the fruition of all them signings coming together, which I think you will. I think the fact that you don't have Hugo Lloris, who when we tried to play it back to him to relieve a bit of pressure and put ourselves into another position to receive the ball, he lumped it long, gave it away, the amount of goals we conceded off the back of it. When you have Eric Dyer making the mistakes he was making, even trying to pick between a guy that's virtually a left winger or someone that's or Ben Davies, you're going to have problem areas in your team. You're going to ship goals. You're going to make mistakes. But now I think that we've addressed that, and that's something that isn't spoken about underneath Ange Postecoglou. The left-hand side last year was a disaster. Adoji's come in. He's strengthened that defensively. Last year with Hugo Lloris, we couldn't play out from the back because the consistency of the ball coming out from Hugo Lloris was shocking. Also, his shot-stopping ability. You look at Vicario, look at some of the points he's earned us with some of his saves, but also the distribution. And look at Mickey van der Ven coming in instead of Dyer. Look how classy he looks. Look how good he is on the ball. And also, defensively, he looks solid as well. So, again, another improvement. Now, if we can continue to plug our problem areas and fill out this squad, I think you will see a lot more praise. Look, is it too soon to praise Paratici?
No, not to praise. I'm not saying that you can't give credit where you think it's due or criticism where it's due. I think we've done that. I think we have criticised him on some of the signings. and credited for the bigger picture. I'm just saying, is it too soon to conclude whether he has been a failure or a success? And I think for me, the answer is these things, that the role of a director of football is more protracted than a manager or a player's tenure. And so I think that you have to wait a couple of years to see. And I think that maybe the green shoots are starting to be shown. But I wonder whether both sides of the argument are a little bit too.
Well, 10 players against Burnley is more than green shoots.
Yeah, true, and you can only judge.
Shoot, man. That's a garden.
But isn't that just a consequence of the fact that he's been the director of football for 3 years, and most clubs go through a turnover of players every 3 years? I don't know if that's.
See, the thing is, you can only really judge Paratici once the majority of the squad is filled out with his signings. You still got some signings from before Steve Hitchen. Then you've still got some Steve Hitchen signings, in and around the squad. And we'd argue that some of them brought this club down over the last 3 to 4 years. So with them shifted out, I think this season will be the season you can really judge the recruitment on, because we are using the majority of Paratici's players in and around that squad. So I think after this season will be the season where you could truly have a fair reflection on it.
Yeah, I agree.
The comments down here, I noticed the comments. People are more interested in disproving Paratici than even accepting the possibility that he could be behind anything.
That's it.
I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I think it was Will Stewart. Listen.
Will Stewart. What's he said?
You don't know how much involvement he has. One. Okay? You don't know me, Will. But let's just say he's had involvement. And him with Gabonini and Scolding have, they liaise with Ange. They present the players. Ange approves them or doesn't approve them. But,
Johnny, can I qualify your knowledge by?
No, I'm not going to. I'm not.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not saying nothing for obvious reasons. Fair enough. But we all know he's in a consultancy role, and if you think that he's been kept on in a consultancy role because he. For his no good. What's this? Has Paratici? Sorry, what was that last one? Has Paratici not made more than enough signings for it to be his team? Though, yeah, I believe it does. The fact that 10 players were in that team
now, and we are 4 games into the season, and so while, like I was saying a minute ago, whilst I am desperate to put on my bells and whistles and go, we're going to do the double, all that nonsense.
No, I'm not doing that.
Of course, but I'm being hyperbolic. But what I mean is that whilst I really want to get ahead of myself, because that's the sort of person that I can find myself becoming at times, I'm trying to keep my optimism measured and realise that we are 4 games. We're 4 games into a season. I think we'll know more when we play Liverpool and Arsenal, right?
Look, this is not a one-man operation, right? Okay, we've given praise to Gabonini. Gabonini is one of the top scouts there is out there. He's the head scout. He's brought in his own people. You've got Scolding there as well. It's not a one-man operation, right? But Paratici, he said when he came in, the job's too big for one person. This needs an organisation and an infrastructure. Yeah. And, this isn't just about players that you can see. This is about things in the background, the infrastructure, the scouting network, how things are reported, how you analyse the data. It's not, okay, so you've analysed Carlos Kickerball, in Venezuela, right? But there's more. There's more than that. Okay, where does he come from? What sort of family background does he have? Does he speak English? Can he make the progression? There's lots of things that go into the success of a signing, and he's not going to get them all right. But it's more than just the signings, and everyone's judging it about the signings. And if we are judging it by the signings, yes, there's been some players that haven't worked out. But when you've got 10 players that started in that first team against Burnley, that his signings, you've got to take your hat off and you've got to turn around and say, you know what, maybe he's done it. Because Basuma, 25 million. Adoji, 15 million. Sarr, 15 million. Right? Benton Court, right? I know he's injured at the moment. 17 million. My God, these players are cheap as chips in this market.
Yeah, those 5 are, but I guess you can make the argument we massively overplayed for Brian Hill. You know, there's
and
obviously
for Richarlison, but Richarlison
right?
wasn't 60 million, by the
but
way.
no one gets it. No one's got the track record of 100% hit rate.
Richarlison was not 60 million pounds. Okay, it was under 50.
50 whatever.
No, it's under 50 plus all the add-ons. And let's be honest, if he's not successful, we aren't paying the add-ons. And if he is, we end up paying the add-ons. We'll be very happy because we've won something.
Yeah, 100%. All right, guys, listen, we could be going on for another 2 hours. I absolutely adore talking with you two. It's brilliant. I think everyone in the comments has enjoyed it. But I know you guys have got things to do with your day.
Don't forget to like, guys. I mean,
smash the like button. Johnny, where can people find you, mate? I'll put the link and we'll put it in again. And your link will be in the title afterwards, guys. So, Jesus, hang on a second. I'm so sorry. One second, Johnny. Moondog, I didn't even see this super chat. I don't know how long ago it came in. Massive shout out. Thank you so much for the support, my man. Good afternoon, lads. I hope you're all well.
Good to see you as always.
Good to see you, buddy. Let me get the links for Johnny and Dave. Johnny, where can people find you, mate?
Johnny H3232. You can find me on Twitter, where I do my Twitter spaces. We can come on and up to 10 people can talk at the same time. And you can find me on Let's Talk Tottenham on Instagram and TikTok, and on Tottenham on Tour and your management with Brian. But come and follow me here, and let's interact, guys. And as always, Dave and Sean, it's always good being on with you guys.
Yeah, it's my favorite show of the week for me. I absolutely adore it. Thank you, boys. You come with such knowledge of all things that are going on at Tottenham, but I especially love to hear your takes on the kids. You know what? I didn't even ask you about this Iago Santiago. We'll save that for next week, because I've seen.
He's a midfielder, not a striker. He's a midfielder.
But he's doing brilliant things. Apparently, I think he's got 5 goals or something already this season. Dave, where can people find you, mate? The host, the mothership for my kind of Tottenham channel started all with you guys at the Irish Hotspur. Talk about it for us.
Yeah, look, you can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. You know, you'll see these faces on there from time to time as well. So, you know, look, I don't do anything that everybody else doesn't do. You know, I just do the regular, you know, like everyone else, just talking about Tottenham and stuff like that. So if you enjoy my contribution, please get over there and hit the subscribe button. If not, you know, you'll still have to listen to more of me. So eventually you'll have to do it.
Absolutely adore you, Dave. Absolutely adore you, Johnny. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end it there. Please do me a favor. Smash the like button on your way out. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure you hit those links. Johnny on Twitter. And, of course, Dave on YouTube. And we will see you. Well, you'll see me tomorrow with the dog. And you'll see me tonight, actually, for a 9:45 show. But you'll see me tomorrow with the dog. And then you'll see us on here, at least, next Tuesday. All being well. Like, subscribe, and comment, guys. And as always...
Come on, you Spurs.